Hello, I am Scott Benton, Chair of the Washoe County School District Safe and Healthy Schools Commission. On behalf of the Commission, I would like to welcome you to our annual Safety Forum. This is the third year we've offered this forum in a virtual setting to offer more accessibility to the members of our community who want to learn more about these important safety topics. We are also doing an in-person forum this evening, Thursday, May 11th at 5:30 p.m. at Trainer Middle School. The Safe and Healthy Schools Commission is made up of volunteer representatives of law enforcement, health professionals, local government, educators, nonprofit leaders, and more. We will see many of the commissioners today moderating some of the sessions and sharing their expertise on important safety topics. The Safe and Healthy Schools Commission values community feedback. We have used information from previous safety forums to make essential changes to support student safety. Therefore, the Safety Forum is a critical piece to identifying better ways to support student safety, well-being, and overall social, emotional, and physical health. I want to thank our commissioners who have offered their workplace expertise during this forum. I would also like to thank Washoe County School District staff, including representatives from emergency management, school police, facilities, counseling, family engagement, social work, and more. Videos of the forum will be on the Washoe County School District website later this week so that you can see what we have learned today. We will also be discussing your comments and feedback during the Safe and Healthy Schools Commission meetings. Our meetings are open to the public, and information can be found on the work that we do as a commission at washoeschools.net. Now I'd like to introduce Washoe County School District Superintendent Dr. Susan Enfield.
Hello, and welcome to our annual School Safety Forum. I first want to thank our Safe and Healthy Schools Commission for pulling this together, and I want to thank all of you for participating. Keeping our schools safe for students and staff is a top priority for me, for our trustees, and for everyone across the Washoe County School District. And we know we can't do it alone. That's why I'm so grateful that you are all here as a part of this conversation today. We'll share what we are doing to keep our students and staff safe, but we also want to hear from you. What are other things that we can be doing to make sure that our schools are safe, welcoming places for our students, for our staff, and for our families? So thank you very, very much.
Hello, I'm Beth Smith, President of the Washoe County School District Board of Trustees. And on behalf of the board, I'd like to thank you for attending the 2023 Safety Forum. We deeply value the important work being done by the Commission and the Commission's deep commitment to the safety of every student and employee in the Washoe County School District. As a district, we are thankful to have this group of experts in mental health, public policy, elected officials, law enforcement, suicide prevention, and more as part of this important commission guiding the trustees. We hope you will find the sessions useful today. Your feedback in this forum is essential as it helps the Board of Trustees. It informs our work in school and student safety, the most important work that we do. Thank you.
I'm Megan from the Communications Department, just going to go over a few housekeeping items. So give us 1 second as we pull up an additional PowerPoint. Okay, sorry about that. So again, thank you for attending our forum today. I'd like to just go over a few items with you. This is accessible to families that need interpretation in Spanish. So if you do need that, you'll see interpretation at the bottom of the screen. It's a separate audio channel that will continue in Spanish as we go on. So I'd like to go over our agenda for today. We've done our introductory videos. We're doing the overview of the sessions at this point. You'll select a track, the main room or the breakout room. Each track will include 2 topics with a presentation and time for question and answers, and then we'll join back together for the last 10 minutes or so to have a further discussion on safety concerns. As a reminder, this forum will be recorded and is being recorded right now, and it'll be featured on our website, washawschools.net/safety forum. You're able to use that chat function. We ask that you ask their questions there, and there'll be moderators in the room facilitating those question and answers. We want to make sure that we engage in productive dialogue. So please follow our meeting agreements, which is being present, respectful of different opinions, easy on people, hard on ideas, as concise as possible. Please enable all opinions to be heard. And of course, no derogatory, racist, or hateful remarks. If those are found, you will be asked to leave the meeting. To select a breakout room, it's going to appear at the bottom of your screen. You'll be able to attend a breakout. Again, here in this main room, we will discuss suicide prevention and safety in schools. If you would like to learn about the gun safety and the juvenile justice system, please head over to the breakout room. If you cannot get there or are confused on how it works, please don't worry. We have staff here in the chat that can assign you to that room. So just shoot us a message and let us know if you need assistance. And that'll be it. We'll head over to our discussions now. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. My name is Sarah Porter, and I am on the Safe and Healthy Schools Commission. And I am going to be moderating this discussion. And I'm very excited to introduce our first presenter today, and that is going to be Ms. Emma White.
Sarah, if you could just give us a minute or two.
Yeah.
I think people are still learning about the breakouts. So if we could just
got
hold
it.
off for a minute or two.
Sure, you cue me when you're ready.
Thanks. For some reason, our breakout rooms were closed, so we're going to reopen those. Give us 1 second.
Okay, you should be able to see the breakout room. If that doesn't show, let us know. And you can, the main room, you can stay here, or you can choose to go to the breakout room as noted.
Okay, Sarah, it looks like people are getting the hang of that. And again, if you want to be in a different room, just put it in the chat and we'll get you over there. And I think we can get started.
Okay, great. Thank you, Megan. So as I mentioned, my name is Sarah Porter. I am on the Safe and Healthy Schools Commission as a parent representative, and I'm very thrilled to be a part of this very important discussion today. And I am going to be introducing Emma White, who is representing the Office of Suicide Prevention today in this discussion. Emma is a mental health advocate, author, and speaker. Her passion is in suicide prevention, and with her lived experience as a suicide survivor, she advocates for youth mental health and education while specializing in statewide collaborative efforts to develop, implement, and evaluate state prevention strategies through communication and safe messaging. Emma is the statewide youth suicide prevention coordinator with NDE and the Project Aware Manager and safe messaging specialist with the Nevada Office of Suicide Prevention. So with that, I will hand the microphone over to Emma. Again, if you have questions as she's talking, please go ahead and put those in the chat, and I will try to get to as many as we can within the time allotted. So take it away, Emma.
Thank you so much. I will be going.
Emma, are you having internet issues? You're freezing.
Do you need us to run the PowerPoint?
I'm so sorry. I think I just completely went away. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. Yes, so much
Oh my
better.
goodness,
Yay,
that is like
good.
everybody's worst nightmare. I am so sorry. Okay, well, I'm going to start again.
Sure.
All right, well, going to be talking about suicide prevention today. I know it can be challenging to talk about or to learn, but feel free to ask questions in the chat and we will get to it. And if for some reason my internet goes away again, hopefully not. Okay, so again, my name is Emma White with the Nevada Office of Suicide Prevention.
Otra vez, soy Emma White, soy la coordinadora de prevención de suicidio.
So please feel free to take any screenshots or ask questions as you might need. So to start out, I'm going to talk about Nevada suicide statistics. Now you will see that we have 2020 up here, which you're probably thinking, well, we're in 2023. Why do you have that number up there? We are updating these numbers. It takes about 2 years for us to confirm this with the CDC, but I can tell you that our 2021 numbers, we did see an increase in suicide in the state of Nevada as well as across the country. So in 2020, we were the 12th highest rate in the United States. I have updated that to say 8th. So we are 8th in the nation for 2021 data, and that 603 number did increase. So we will be releasing that information. It is the second leading cause of death for ages 8 to 44 in the state of Nevada. I know that that can be really hard to see. It is hard to see young as 8. And unfortunately, we have lost students as young as 8 to suicide, not only in the state, but in the country. So that's why it's really important that you're all here learning about this today. We do have a high percentage of suicide deaths in Nevada for our veteran population, and that is also in the state, in the country. So in the country, we lose on average every single day about 17 to 22 veterans a day to suicide. So it is not only a problem in the country, but it is a problem in the state as well. We also have high suicide rates for our 65 and older population. In 2020, we were the 4th highest rate in the country. So definitely a population that has high suicide rates. But there were more suicide deaths than homicides and motor vehicle accidents combined in 2020. And I think that that's always shocking for people because they see, at least for me, when I drive on the freeway, I always see those, the big banner that says click it or ticket. This is how many people we've lost to motor vehicle accidents. But we actually have more suicide deaths than that and homicides combined. So it puts things into perspective. When we do the math, we have about 1 suicide death every 14 hours in the state of Nevada. Now, if we're looking at 24 hours in a day, we have almost 2 people we're losing every single day in the state to suicide. We do also estimate that there are 25 attempts for every suicide death in the state of Nevada. Now, moving forward, specifically looking at youth suicide statistics, some of these are particular to Nevada and some of them are for the country. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for youth aged 8 to 24, in the nation 10 to 24. We have more females who attempt suicide, but more males die by suicide. This can be for multiple reasons, but one of the main reasons is that choice of lethal means. So we typically have males who will choose firearm or a more lethal method, whereas females might take medication or engage in other self-harm. And so that's why. But some other things that might contribute to that is a lot of times our males, especially our youth males, are told, that men don't cry, that men have to be strong, that they have to suck it up. And so they might not feel comfortable reaching out for help or talking about their emotions. On average, we lose 17 youth every single day in the United States. And when we break that down, we have an estimated 100 to 200 attempts for every youth who dies by suicide. The Trevor Project, if anybody's heard of the Trevor Project, is the leading nonprofit for LGBTQ youth mental health. They have found that they estimate one suicide attempt every 45 seconds in the country for our LGBTQ youth age 13 to 24. We are expecting an increase in suicide ideation amongst our youth for our 2021 and 2022 data. And many people have thought, well, that's because of COVID. But it's important to know that COVID did not directly cause an increase in these suicide deaths or attempts. It exacerbated existing mental health problems. We have had mental health challenges in the state of Nevada for a while. And so COVID is not the direct cause, but it exacerbated those existing problems. I don't see any questions in the chat, but are there any questions on this data? Okay,
I also
moving.
don't have any in the
Okay,
chat. Yep,
perfect.
Go ahead, Emma.
So moving forward, talking about trends for youth suicide. Now this comes from the Youth Risk Behavior Survey, which the CDC does across the country. And then we also do one in the state of Nevada. So we'll talk about some trends that they've found in their recent report. No surprise, mental health among students overall continues to worsen, with more than 40% of high school students feeling so sad or hopeless that they could not engage in their regular activities. We're seeing significant increases in the percentage of youth who seriously considered suicide or made a suicide plan or even attempted suicide. Across all measures, almost all measures of substance use, experiences of violence, mental health, suicide thoughts and behaviors, our female students are faring more poorly than our male students. Not to say that our male students aren't struggling, they might be struggling in different ways. And we are seeing that our female mental health is really, really suffering. We can't talk about teens or youth and suicide without addressing social media, which a lot of people, it's kind of a buzzword right now. So 90%, according to ACAP, 90% of teens aged 13 to 17 are on social media with an average of 9 hours per day on the internet. So that is a lot, right? That is a whole work day on the internet. To be fair, some of that internet is probably being used for schoolwork, homework, different things like that, but also combined with internet usage on YouTube, on their phones, accessing social media apps. So some potential risks of social media can include exposure to harmful content, cyberbullying, body image and comparison amongst those celebrities and influencers that could lead to low self-esteem, identity theft, interfering with sleep, exercise, and homework. So these things tend to be talked about a lot right now. But we also see that there are potential benefits. So weighing those pros and cons for our youth. Those potential benefits could be in connecting with friends, meeting new people with shared interests that maybe don't go to their school or maybe aren't in their neighborhood, so they feel like they belong to a community. They're able to explore and express themselves. And whether we like it or not, our youth are researching their health information online. They're researching it on TikTok, YouTube, Pinterest. So it's really important that we have proper, effective health information on those channels so that they can be provided the right information for their health. Important to know, and you'll hear me say this multiple times, suicide is very complex and can be, we can't attribute it to just one thing, but we do know that social media has had a profound impact on our youth and their mental health. Moving forward, also can't talk about this without talking about bullying. Again, we cannot make we can't draw the line from bullying to suicide. Bullying isn't the #1 reason why youth attempt suicide, but we do know that youth who report frequently bullying others or youth who report being bullied are at increased risk for suicide-related behavior. So those youth who report both bullying others and being bullied, maybe they identify as a victim of bullying, do have the highest risk for suicide-related behavior. But we don't know if bullying directly causes that behavior. So as I said, it's complex. It's correct to say that involvement in bullying combined with other risk factors increases the chance that a young person will engage in suicide-related behavior. So I know that it can be a little bit confusing, but what we really want you to see is that it's never just one thing. Absolutely, bullying should be reported. We should address it both for the person being bullied and the person doing the bullying, because we never truly know if that person doing the bullying is also experiencing their own mental health challenges or thoughts of suicide. So as we move forward talking about bullying and suicide, it's very important the way that we frame this discussion, whether as parents or educators or community members. If we say that bullying is the single direct cause of suicide, it's not helpful and can actually be harmful because it could perpetuate the false notion that suicide is a natural response to being bullied, which has a potential to normalize that response or create copycat behavior amongst our youth. We can absolutely help our youth who are being bullied, and we don't want to give them the idea that suicide is the natural response for getting bullied. We don't want to encourage sensationalized reporting that contradicts the recommendations for reporting on suicide, and again, could encourage that copycat behavior or contribute to that suicide contagion. So suicide is not contagious, but we do know there is a contagion factor, which means that someone who is already struggling, already having thoughts of suicide, could be impacted by sensationalized reports on suicide. We want to not focus the response on blame and punishment. That misdirects the attention from getting needed support and treatment. And we don't want to focus only on bullying because it could take away that attention from other important risk factors like mental illness, substance abuse, problems coping with disease or disability, or family dysfunction. So important that we focus on all of the things that are impacting our youth, recognizing that bullying is definitely something that is going on both in person at school and virtually online. Misty is going to put some, Misty Allen, who is fantastic, who I work with at the Office of Suicide Prevention, is putting some resources in the chat for you, and we'll get to how we can utilize those. So what works in schools? We see the Youth Risk Behavior Survey saying that the making school environments safer and more supportive is definitely important, improving that school connectedness. So making sure that all students feel supported, that they feel respected, that they feel comfortable reaching out for help in their school environments. Also implementing quality health education. We are very lucky as an office to work with our school districts, to work with community partners, to help implement that quality health education for our students. And then connecting young people to needed services. I know a lot of people that feel like there's no help out there, that there's no resources, but there are resources. We can get you connected to care. Our schools are a really great starting point, and they are connected with a lot of our community partners to help our students navigate those challenges. So some examples of digital wellness and incorporating this in our youth's lives and maybe our life as well, implementing those screen time limits, which is starting to happen. We're seeing platforms like TikTok. I don't know when it goes into effect, but they have announced that they will be implementing a 1 hour screen time limit for any account that is under the age of 18, I believe, so up to 17. Now, there is a way to work around that. Parents can put in a code that allows their youth to continue to use it, use the app. But I think it's a really great starting point that we can start implementing those screen time limits, especially when they're at school. Maybe wearing blue light glasses when using computer or technology for extended periods, or adjusting those phone screen lights. So if you have an Android or an iPhone, they will automatically adjust at certain times if you just go into the setting, which is helpful for us to fall asleep. Turning off those TVs, computers, phones, anything with a screen 30 minutes before bed has been proven to help us go to sleep faster and stay asleep longer. Muting notifications on phones and computers during high stress or focus times, definitely while sleeping. Limiting the personal data being shared within apps on smartphones. So in some of the toolkits that Misty is sharing, you will find information on limiting that data. One of the really important ones I like to talk about is that location service. So a lot of times our youth will download apps, create a profile. They just click yes, approve to everything just to get rid of it, not knowing what it actually means. So for example, if your child or student has Snapchat, Snapchat will show your location to all of your Snapchat friends unless you disable it. Or if you have a public account, that public account will also show. So what we see is maybe if you are traveling on vacation, or students who are going on class trips or going, to state competitions, that will actually show the location of their hotel. So it is something that we want to think about with our students and our youth, because it's not something that we've ever really had to deal with before. We want to restrict content or profiles on social media, so blocking and reporting harassing or inappropriate accounts. A lot of those toolkits will show you how to do that. I worked with a student who had no idea that you could unfollow someone on Instagram. So it's important that we are providing them that information. And then knowing those safety and privacy tools on all of those social media apps. There's a lot of them, so we want to be as knowledgeable as we possibly can. So how can we demonstrate that learned leading by example, helping our child learn resilience, building that resilience? It starts with leading by example. To help them build those tools, we have to teach them how to navigate those challenges rather than fixing the problems for them. We have to help them go through those challenges and give them the tools. So when we hear a youth talk about mental health challenges or thoughts of suicide, how we react and what we say can impact the likelihood of them reaching out again. So we don't want to dismiss their experiences. Oftentimes we hear people say, that can't be my child because I love my child and I've given my child all the support and nurturing that I possibly can. And unfortunately with our youth, we can give them everything under the sun and they can still struggle with mental health challenges. So it's important we don't dismiss that experience. If they do if they are seeking help for those challenges, we do not want to give them a punitive response. We don't want to punish them for it. We want to say, thank you for telling me, thank you for reaching out, I'm here for you, and we want to connect them to proper support. Important to note though, that parents or caregivers might have their own previous suicide experience, which could prevent them from helping their child. So we want to support our parents, caregivers as well in whatever they've experienced so that they can better help their child.
And Emma, I'm just going to jump in here really quickly. We have about 5 minutes left in this session. So if anyone does have a question, now would be the time to put it in that chat so that you have, we have time with Emma so she can actually answer those. If I don't get any questions, Emma, I'll just let you, run with the rest of the presentation if anyone does have a question, but now is the time to go ahead and ask that.
Thank you. So I'll let you guys read through these real quickly, just some things to encourage those healthy habits, checking in with your child regularly. I know it can be hard asking those questions, how was your day? And you get fine. Asking those open-ended questions can help encourage them to open up with you. If your child talks about their friends' thoughts of suicide, do not keep it to yourself. We want to let those that kid's parents know or school know so that we can intervene and help with them. So just some ideas coming from Living Ideation, Dr. Nicholas. Just look at these questions. I encourage you to include them in your conversations. What are you proud of? What happened today that you are excited about? Or what happened that you're really nervous about? Engaging in those conversations can help our kids feel more supported and that we care and that we're listening to them. One of the things I also want to mention just before we wrap up with questions is to be aware that our youth, they are talking about suicide and mental health challenges amongst their peers, but they are getting crafty on social media. A lot of social media platforms have actually blocked the ability to put the word suicide. So what they are doing now is they're putting things like KMS for kill myself, KYS for kill yourself. They're saying I'm going to unalive myself. So things to keep in mind. If you see those things, we definitely want to take it seriously every time.
That's very helpful, Emma. Thank you so much. I do have a question from a parent asking if you can put the questions back up again to ask the kids. And I think this is really helpful because you do get that, how was your day? Fine. And these help you drill a little bit deeper. And that was one of the questions too, is how can you engage with your student to get those kind of early signs that maybe something is going on. So these are great ones to either take a screenshot of if anybody wants to do that at this time, or if we have any other questions on that. And then, as she said, Misty has put up quite a few different resources in the chat, all around social media, Safe Voice, that kind of thing. So lots of different resources for parents to check out after this particular session. And I just would throw one question at you while we have a couple minutes. Emma, are there particular signs of suicide, or is this one of those things that is a little bit more of a silent affliction that has to be drilled down, or are there signs that parents could look for?
Yeah, absolutely. So there can be a million, unfortunately. What we're really looking for is what has changed, what is out of character for the child. Have they withdrawn from things that they love? Are they not eating? Are they eating more? Are they sleeping more? Are they sleeping less? We really want to just be in tune with what those changes are. A lot of times people think that it's, sadness all the time, which absolutely could be, but it could also be overcompensation and being happy all the time as well. So really noticing what is, what is out of character for our child. And I do see some things in the chat as well that I want to make sure that I address. But if you are interested in taking trainings to know more about those signs, I'm going to put up our contact information right now. You will see Misty's information up on the top left and mine on the top right. You're welcome to email us or call us to learn about how to take those trainings so that you can be equipped with the tools.
Wonderful. And those trainings are for anyone can take those, parents, students, teachers,
Yes.
caregivers.
Yes, we've got multiple trainings, and it's all laid out on our website, which I can also put in, which is suicideprevention.nv.gov. Okay,
fantastic. We'll get that link to that. Oh, there we go. You just put it in there. Perfect. So we get that link on there on the chat so that everyone has that. So I don't see any other questions.
I have one.
Yes, go ahead.
I have one question about, let me find it. So sorry. Oh, I don't know where it went. I had a question, but I think it went away. Oh, I see. Yes, Oscar's comment will be addressed in that. Yes.
Yep, separate issue.
Oh, and then I also see a question on addressing pressure on young girls to change their genders, or that suicide is the alternative. I can't address that here. I think every child is different. Misty, unless you had something you wanted to add.
Oh, sorry, I was I was typing. I don't see that question, Emma.
I don't either.
Oh, it was just a direct message that came in, so I just wanted to see pressures on young girls, maybe to change their genders, or suicide is the alternative to our LGBTQ population.
I'm not sure what the question is. I know, and I'm not sure what the question is, but I'm putting in my cell phone and email if someone wants to contact me directly about that, so I can make sure I understand, and we'll absolutely answer that.
Yeah, awesome.
Perfect. Well, that's wonderful. We are at time. Emma, thank you so much for this very valuable presentation, for sharing your experience and resources with the larger Washoe County School District community, and we really appreciate it. And as everybody can see, if you have any follow-up questions, lots of resources for you to go ahead and take advantage of. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. And I believe we are now going to be moving into our second one, which is safety in schools. So Megan, do you need to do some things on your end before I introduce Roy? Oh, you're muted.
Oh, yes, we should be ready to roll whenever you'd like to start.
All right, wonderful. Roy, are you on the line?
I am.
Okay, wonderful. So I would like to introduce our Washoe County School District Emergency Manager, Roy Anderson. He attends lots of our meetings at the Safe and Healthy Schools and is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to how we keep the physical safety for our students and at our schools. So I will go ahead and throw it over to Roy. And again, as you have questions, put those in the chat and we'll get to as many as we can.
Thanks, Sarah. After hearing the other introduction, I'm going to have to work on whoever didn't write enough for you on mine, but I appreciate the kind words. We'll get going on safety in our schools. I'll share my screen real quick and share that. Nope, get you everybody moved over. All right, so hopefully everyone can see the safety in schools PowerPoint slide. Is that accurate, Sarah? Okay, awesome. So my name is Roy Anderson. I'm the emergency manager here for the district. I'm just going to kind of go through what emergency management is, what the focus that we try to do in our schools, and how it relates to some of the projects and some of the other things that we do here in the district. I'm just going to kind of do a brief overview, and then as with the other presentation, as you have information that is, comes to mind or have a question, we can address that Or if we can't address it here, obviously we'll make note of it and see if we can address it in another fashion. So when we're dealing with emergency management schools, we really want to focus on what our 5 mission areas are. And these mission areas are prevention, protection, mitigation, response, and recovery. And I'll go through a little bit about how we try to address from emergency management and from a district standpoint, how we want to address these 5 mission areas. So the first one, when we look at prevention, obviously we want to prevent something from occurring at all, right? So obviously, you know, the old saying, prevention is the best medicine, and that definitely holds true in the emergency management and school safety realm. So one of the ways, or some of the ways that we do this would be behavioral threat assessments. So if there is any, you know, indication that a student might be a danger to the school, we do want to make sure that we put the student through what we call a behavioral threat assessment. Take a look at what's going on with behavior, see what indicators are there, and then put a plan in place to help get that student any of the resources and help that they need. The other thing that we want to do is, you know, you'll see where sometimes our schools will go into a code yellow, and not necessarily because of a specific threat, but maybe it's to investigate a possible threat, or we want to look at you know, have those kinds of incidents, you know, just verified, make sure, obviously we take every threat serious. So if it's something that's a little bit more specific to a campus, like we've had here recently, not last Friday was more general, but if you're looking at a specific threat to a campus, you'll see where a school might go into a code yellow to help us investigate that threat. The other things you'll see is some of the backside of things are IT security. Of course, things are put in place to help prevent any kind of hacking situation, any type of malware or ransomware. And we want to try to really prevent some of those incidents from occurring as well. And that ties right into like online safety training that is available through the district. And I think the commission had talked about, you know, doing something a little bit more in depth later on down the road for that, because a lot of that has to do with online safety, obviously, for our students, right? We want to give them the tools and knowledge so that they can be safe online. Obviously, suicide's a big part, suicide prevention, obviously, is a big part of that as well. So with, you know, some of the programs we have in the district, as well as, you know, our partners that spoke earlier, we want to try to make sure that that is an area of focus for prevention for us. And then finally, another example we have would be like safe routes to school. So when we're looking at, you know, making sure our students get to and from school safely, right, that's a big concern as well. So we want to make sure that we partner with our local communities on, you know, ensuring that we have school zones and crosswalks and training to our staff on how to manage those crosswalks. So our safe routes to school is a good resource for us on that. When we're talking about protection, right? So when we're looking at protection, we want to look at how to protect from certain things. So that's where more of the physical security comes in with our single point of entry. Make sure that we try to direct our visitors to one location. We have a little bit more control of who's on our campus. And then that way, not only do we have the check-in process, but also we have a good accounting for who's on campus, so we can help make sure that they're safe.
Ahí tenemos que tener un conteo de todas las personas que están en las escuelas.
So that particular project was to help protect the school during the day.
Eso es para proteger a la escuela.
So that way we can have a little bit better security.
Y para eso tener una seguridad más segura.
We're having in the neighborhood with people just being able to access right up to the building. So we did put that in place.
No queremos que personas anden corriendo mientras está el código. No queremos que las personas anden caminando por los pasillos o fuera de. Eso significa.
And just to interject on that, Roy, there's a question specifically around Damani Ranch High School and Jamaica Park, correct? Just to make sure.
Yeah, so that was the one. I think it had to do with the bus stop and the kids having to get to the bus stop. The Jamaica Park is a dual use field. And unfortunately, the fencing wasn't complete on that when it was originally built, or, you know, I'm not sure the exact history on that, is obviously more facilities, but I am familiar that that fence was put in due to some incidents that have occurred, and just adding a little bit more enhancement of safety for that campus. Whenever we're looking at protecting campuses, we're looking at that layer of security. You'll hear that, you know, quite a bit, right? Try to have, you know, as many layers of security as possible, and just having something that helps prevent someone from coming right up next to the building is really important for us to have that layer. Unfortunately, in this case, you know, it does make a little bit longer travel time for kids to walk to their bus stop. So I think that's what was being alluded to in that question. If so, you know, or I'm sorry, if not, then please let us know if there's other questions surrounding that. The other thing, you know, obviously would be visitor management, and that's, you know, that goes back to the single point of entry. Having the two together really helps with having the ability to, again, monitor who's on campus, who's in our buildings. You know, we don't want to prevent people, you know, parents and family members from coming on campus, but we definitely do need to account for them when they're on campus. So that's another layer of protection that we have for our schools. Mitigation. So when we talk about mitigation, those are usually for things that we can't prevent, right? We can't obviously prevent everything. You know, we can't prevent an earthquake, but what we can do is we can mitigate the effects of the incidents. So when we're looking at some of the things that we do for that mitigation, you can see, you know, examples of that would be fire suppression system, whether it's the sprinklers or the fire extinguishers that are located throughout our schools. The other thing would be like our fire alarm system, right, to alert people that there is a danger in the school and to evacuate if it's due to a fire. So those are just examples of how that mitigation can work. We've got broiler and gas shutoffs, obviously, you know, for safety reasons. If there's a need, you know, again, during earthquake, we want to shut off gas, make sure that we mitigate the effects of that earthquake. Throw sandbagging in there. It does occur every now and then. We have some schools or even some district property that every now and then is subject to flooding. So we want to make sure that our district has that response capability through our maintenance department. So if there is a need to have sandbagging at our schools to help, you know, mitigate any damage from flooding, we have that ability as well. And the last one there is the AED for first aid and then bleeding control. So that really helps with any kind of medical incident that might occur. Bleeding control, you know, fortunately, most people think of school shootings and things like that, but it actually has been beneficial at schools throughout the nation when we're dealing even with just like playground accidents, where students have broken bones and it has caused bleeding that needed to be controlled. So really, we want to try to take an all hazards approach to our emergency management. The AED, obviously, for, you know, any heart-related incidents, and then just basic first aid thing that we do in our schools as well. When we're moving into the response phase. So this is where we get, you know, some questions from parents regarding what our protocols are. These are what's called in the industry functional annexes. So these are protocols or procedures that we put in place to respond to an incident, right? So you might have multiple different types of incidents that all fall under, you know, a certain response. So Code Red lockdown, for example, is our most secure, our most strict response, if you will, from what a building does during an emergency. So, you know, if we're dealing with something that can potentially cause, you know, loss of life, those are kind of things that we want to make sure that we address in the Code Red lockdown and put those procedures in place. Probably one of the most common as far as like dealing with neighborhood issues is going to be our Code Yellow Secure Campus. Usually we'll put those in place when there is a need for heightened security. It's not necessarily due to a potentially life-threatening situation, but it is something that would prevent an incident occurring, or that is occurring in the neighborhood, from becoming a life-threatening incident at a school. It could even be used to, like, if there is a neighborhood issue. For example, the other day we had a gas leak literally right across the street from the school. They put them into a Code Yellow Secure Campus just to keep the kids safe in the classroom from going outside while the fire department and NV Energy dealt with the gas leak. So, you know, there was no threat to the building, but there could have been a potential threat if the students were outside, or even if, you know, adults that were in the building left and went out into harm's way. So those are, you know, some of the security measures that we'll take to help, you know, within a type of incident that's occurring in the neighborhood. You'll hear evacuation is one of the ones. Most people just call it fire drill, or we evacuate for fire. You know, anybody who's gone to school in the United States since the 50s, you'll know, you know, we did monthly fire drills, right? But usually we want to use the term evacuation because it doesn't necessarily mean you're evacuating for a fire. You could evacuate for a gas leak. Could be smoke in the hallway because of, you know, electrical device burned up and put a lot of smoke in the hallway. And those types of events happens every now and then for us as well. But those are obviously procedures that we'll use to help respond to those types of incidents. Reunification, you'll hear that term. Usually we'll have most of our reunifications will be a controlled release. Like you'll hear that term used a lot. Basically, that just means that anytime something is different than just our normal release of the students at the end of day, we're going to use a controlled release. So it's just a way to kind of, whatever that looks like, we have a lot of leeway on that. For whatever safety is concerned. So, for example, a few years ago, we had an incident close to a couple of schools. There was dynamite that was located. Obviously, we couldn't let students walk home or ride their bikes home. So we needed every student to get picked up by someone. So that would be an example of a controlled release. There was no danger from the front of the school as far as picking them up, but we just couldn't get the kids, you know, to walk home. So you'll hear that term. The other reunification you'll have is after a large incident that has occurred at a school, when we have to take the students from one location to another location, and that would be a family reunification, what's referred to in the industry as two-gate system. So it's parents would check in, and then they'll go through the process of identifying who they are, who their students are that they're able to pick up, and then we'll move them through to reunify them with their loved ones. So that's, you know, a larger process, but that's what we mean by reunification. And then finally, another example we have is medical emergency. Those types of incidents occur, you know, all the time, as far as, you know, students having health issues or you know, injuries or accidents, things like that. So that does occur more frequently. So we want to make sure that we have a response in place for those types of incidents as well. The last piece is recovery, or after an incident, and sometimes even like while the incident is occurring, we'll start recovery. So for us, you're going to deal with mental health issues that might arise from it. So not only with the students, but with the staff and even responders, right? We want to make sure that they have the mental health support that they need. We have like psychological first aid that we're able to do, and then obviously resources in the community that we can refer individuals to as well. May have academic recovery. So, you know, as we saw during COVID, there was some things we had to put in place to help with recovery of the academic loss. And then there's physical, right? So obviously, if there's a damage to the building or equipment of the building, we can't occupy the building for a period of time. Obviously, we'll have to like put in plans to have whatever the physical recovery is as well. And then finally, financial, that's usually more for large incidents. So like say COVID, for example, where we sought funds or reimbursement back from the federal government through the state to kind of recoup some of our costs that we had at the initial response of COVID. So those are the 5 mission areas. I know I see there's a whole bunch of questions coming in. I haven't had a chance to look at those yet. So Sarah, if you had a chance.
I do. Yeah,
Okay.
I was able to kind of group some of them. So I think there is some more questions around kind of the fencing and sort of the safe routes to school around some of the kids getting to certain bus stops and getting to various schools and that kind of thing. I know you more focus on the safety of the school building and the school campus.
Mhm.
Would it be best to direct put some resources in the chat around safe routes to school, and that might be a good follow-up? Or do you have some thoughts there around how those are planned and how those either the fencing is put up or school bus stops are planned?
Sure. So the school bus stops, that's usually handled by transportation. So in this particular case, I don't feel like I would have enough information to be able to provide for that, those questions. As far as those types of questions, sorry, I would definitely refer those over to our transportation department so that we can look at, you know, any adjustments or enhancements. And I want to say that they do look at them every year. Chief Trevino, I see you jumped on. Did you have a comment?
Yeah, I was going to give a little bit of background onto that fence issue. What you said earlier was exactly right. We have had multiple incidents where people that were utilizing the park during the school day while we had our kids out there on that field, where we had issues with them engaging with the kids and various forms of things that were happening there that were not safe for the students. And this, you know, in working with the school, that fence was originally as part of the program a few years ago, and then with funding and various other things that didn't get built at that time. So it wasn't a new idea. It was just a matter of getting it done over time. So it was a direct response to the numerous safety incidents we've had with the students on the fields while they're during the school day. And I understand it's inconvenient. Oftentimes safety and convenience do not go hand in hand. And what I refer people to all the time is every time you go to the airport, you take your shoes off and you put them in the bin. It's not convenient, but it's one of the safety measures they make us do. So I'm not immune to the idea that safety is oftentimes inconvenient. It's inconvenient for all of us, but we have to make choices that we, you know, are going to keep our kids as safe as we can. And the kids at that school utilize that field quite often.
Oh,
Great. Thank you very much for jumping in on that. And we can put some more resources for Safe Routes to School and Transportation Department for those particular comments. There's also kind of a trend in comments around campus monitor security systems, security cameras in the school. Can you talk a little bit about any type of monitoring that is being done on campus while the kids are in class?
So we do have the security cameras in a few of our schools. That is part of the capital projects in doing our safety improvements every year. I do know that there is a look to add at other campuses. We're constantly looking at, you know, what campuses can need them, upgrade of our system as well, right? So some of the schools that have cameras, the cameras do need to be upgraded. So we are in the process of looking at some of those. As far as campus monitors are concerned, that's through the education side, and I don't have any information on that I could share at this time, unfortunately.
Okay, we also have a cluster of comments around security guards, secure entrances to schools, especially schools that might be older. Veterans Elementary is mentioned in some of the comments about those single point of entry or security guards and security on campus. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. So there's Chief Trevino will address that.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is obviously something we talk about quite often, and at the last budget meeting, we talked about this as a possibility for the middle schools. I saw in the comments, I think that's what we're talking about, is the campus safety monitors at middle schools. So yeah, that is something that we're looking at. Obviously, you know, we understand that there's not, you know, a police officer at every school. In an ideal world, that's what we would have. Or in an ideal world, we wouldn't need any of us there. But we do understand that that's a concern for parents at the middle and elementary school levels. We're looking at ways to streamline our processes in school police to have our officers more available at the middle school and elementary school levels. So we will do what we can on our end. And then we are moving, like I said, into various conversations around the idea of adding campus monitors to additional campuses other than high schools.
Okay, great. I would also moving on to one of the questions around active shooter drills. You talked about a lot of the drills, the evacuation drills and those kinds of things. Can you speak to active shooter drills if those are happening on a regular basis in schools, and is it all the way elementary through high school, or how are those being addressed?
Sure. So the response and best practices for responding to our active shooter or active assailant incidents, it's not just firearms. Those are the ones we hear about on the news, but there's other incidents that occur and attacks at schools, and knives and flamethrowers and you know, vehicle ramming incidents, just a couple that pop into my head. So rather than focusing on active shooter, our drills being for the code red drills, and some other nuances that are part of that, and it's also taught to staff, is a response to active shooters. In the industry, there's been a lot of questioning regarding, how far we want to, teach the students, or, when we're talking directly about active shooter drills, where you bring in the police and you have, dummy rounds and all of that. That actually has been shown to do more harm than good, especially for the mental health of our children and even our staff. So when we're looking at those types of incidents, while they're very prevalent in the news as far as, lots of coverage and lots of information that's out there about the incidents and that they've occurred, it's actually a very rare incident at school. The FBI just released their data of mass shootings at schools, or I'm sorry, just mass shootings in general from last year, and there was 4 mass shootings at a school. Now, granted, those were very, impactful incidents at those particular schools, but do we do more harm than good when we're trying to, teach the students how to respond to various incidents? So there's resources that we use. One of the things that we really look at is, again, that do no harm, and how does that, translate into safety, but then also, understanding that, the schools are a safe environment, and we want to make sure that we have that blend. So that's where the all hazards approach comes into place, to where if we can respond, just teach basic response, then that response would be good no matter what the incident is, that's occurring. So we do, even though it's not titled active shooter drill, they are procedure that will respond to those types of incidents.
And you mentioned there were other threats that you see in schools, flamethrowers, that kind of thing. We do have a question from a parent where their child's classroom has been evacuated because of the behavior of another student. How is that generally handled? How are parents notified about that type of thing? Is that something that you can speak to?
So those types of incidents don't rise to the level of notification of either communications, school police, or myself. Usually what will happen, we do have that in place for when we're dealing with safety in the schools. I've actually been part of an incident years ago at another district where there was a medical episode and the student ended up passing away in the classroom, and they never cleared the classroom. So with that knowledge, and that was one of those lessons learned, unfortunately, that was a tough lesson to learn. We put in the clear room just to get students out, either, keep them from witnessing something, keep them from filming, right? In today's day and age, we don't want them to film anything. And then obviously for their safety as well. So a lot of times it's to allow the students to go out of the way, be safe, and then also to let the responders do whatever they need to do, right? So whether it's a response to a medical episode, sometimes behavior things. The other thing we learn too from those types of incidents is sometimes you take away the audience from the student that's acting out, and their behavior will a lot of times dissipate as well. And so it's really kind of a nuance, but those types of things it would be school based and school related.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So I'm getting a message from Megan that we have about 5 minutes left of this entire session, and then we'll kind of bring everybody into the same room to do a wrap up for about 10 minutes if there's any additional questions that have come up. I think we've addressed most of the ones that have come through for you, Roy. We got another question.
Sorry, I had one that came directly.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, it looks like about the procedures for leaving campus. And we're doing our school hours. Unfortunately, that's not my area of expertise. And I don't know if anyone's on here that could answer that directly. But that would be more for the education leadership side of the conversation, and it's definitely something that I would think that Sarah, you and your group might want to see if we can discuss at a future date for one of your meetings. So that would be leave campus during school hours. I don't know if it's like lunch or ditching. I'm not quite sure where that question, the direction that was going.
Okay, great. Last question that I had, and thank you for the bump, Shannon. I did have it on my list. I was getting to you. In terms of absenteeism and when parents are notified if their student is not in class, we have a parent asking sometimes there's quite a delay in that process.
Yeah, and again,
At
again, that's not in my purview. I don't know if
I was just gonna chime in. Shannon, I'll put an email address here and I'll get it to our attendance coordinator and he can talk to you a little bit more about that.
Great. And Jen, just as a final follow-up, I will go ahead and put the link for Safe Routes to School that has the contact information for the questions that we had around the fencing and some of the bus stop questions, so that you can get in touch with the contacts that would be better equipped to answer those questions for you.
Yeah, and before I stopped sharing, you might have saw that I put up an email to our transportation director to just give them a heads up about that question and see if we can, address it, how we need to address it.
Wonderful. All right, there we go for everyone. Fantastic. Okay. I believe in terms of getting back into the larger room, Megan, if you want us to join, or do we have time for maybe one more question or one more wrap up?
We've got about 2 minutes here. So if you want to do another question, and then we'll at 1:05, we'll bring everybody back in here.
Okay, fantastic. If there are any other questions, we did have a follow-up question, and this is probably for you, Jason, just around getting security guards. And I think that's more of a budget conversation, and as needed is more the answer to that particular question around security and upgrading systems, correct?
Correct.
Okay, all right, wonderful. Okay, I am not seeing any additional questions that did not get addressed. If we did not address your question, if it got lost in the chat, please feel free to send me a little bump here, and we'll try and get it before we have to wrap up in about a minute. But Roy, really appreciate your time and kind of sharing your expertise around how we handle safety within our schools and within campuses to keep our kids as safe as possible while they're physically at school.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Okay. All right, fantastic. With that, I will go ahead and throw it back over to Megan. We're at 1:05, so she can put us all in the same room again.
Great, everybody should be back in here momentarily. Just watching them come over. And then Natalie Sanchez, our Vice Chair of the Safe and Healthy Schools Commission, is going to sort of wrap up the end of our day. So Natalie, give it maybe 1 more minute for everybody to get in, and then please address the group.
I wanted to just say thank you first to Sarah and Scott for moderating those groups in those rooms. I happened to be in Sarah's room and she did an excellent job. So that was wonderful to be a part of. Welcome everyone back from, it looks like, oh good, Scott's back, from our different rooms. It's good to see all of you, and oh, thank you for that comment too in the chat from someone saying thank you to the school district employees who are taking time today and every day to keep our kids safe. Thank you for that. As a commission, I want to thank everyone at the school district who works with us to do all of the work to put this massive forum on, and I'm so glad to see it attended. And thank you to all the parents and community members for these great questions. This is definitely something as a commission that we take incredibly seriously, and sincerely are glad to have all of your participation here today. Let's see, it looks like most folks are coming back. So we also want to invite any questions that you have as a larger group right now that maybe you didn't get a chance to hear on all the topics, or if there's something else that we can offer you during this time. This session, it has been recorded, so you can go back if you missed a different room. And this evening, we're also repeating these sessions in person at Trainer Middle School. And it's my hope that if you have any more questions or concerns or just want to come by and say hi, that we would love to see you and love to interact with you.
Hey, Jen, can I just chime in? I want to thank both Gene Gage and Joe Size. Joe just was finishing his presentation up as we all got ported back to the main room. So we didn't get a chance to ask Joe any questions or make comments. So if anybody here who is in that room, if you want to pop in and ask anything of Joe or put something in the chat, we'll try to get your issue up here and get Joe's expertise there. So thanks to both Gene and Joe for really informative and sometimes shocking, I should say, statistics and things that are going on in our world right now with youth. So please hit your unmute button if you have something that you wanted to ask Joe.
I have a question
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
/ comment. Listening to all these statistics and listening to the underbelly of our community and a lot of the troubled children that we do have in our world, not just our community, but every community. This starts at home, right? Parents grow up to be like their parents, and their kids grow up to be like their parents and their brothers and their cousins. And is there a way to keep schools open longer with after school programs? I know a lot of these kids aren't interested in after school programs, especially kids that are already in these gang environments and whatnot. But you know, my kids, the only after school program that we've got is $60 a week. I can't afford $60 a week for my kids to stay after school per kid. It's all money, right? If we had money would solve everything, right? But if it just seems to me that if these kids had a place where they could hang out after school and play basketball or continue to play football or continue to be with their friends, and maybe in a more structured environment, a safer environment like school, some of these kids might not get drawn into those darker aspects of life. Again, it's not really a solution. It's more of just a comment on what I would love to see in the world is these are places where we've got loving teachers that are willing to do whatever they can for these kids. And most parents don't have money for after school programs. So that leaves these kids going home to empty houses or roaming the streets till their parents come home, or maybe not, maybe going home to loving families, but providing an opportunity where all kids, whether they could afford it or not, if everybody was allowed to stay after school until 5 or 6 or whatever, until the streetlights came on, my kids would stay. If their friends were staying, you know, my kids aren't bad kids, but maybe if they're there and everybody's there, everybody can rub off on each other in a better environment, in a safer environment, in a chain link fenced environment that doesn't allow adult influence, that doesn't allow drugs onto that scene. It gives them an opportunity between school and dinner time to have a place to go that doesn't cost their family. And I think whether you can afford it or not, kids would do that. I don't know where the money would come from, but that just seems like a no-brainer. Give these kids a place to go. That's all I got.
Chris, it looks like we've got Dr. Lamarca here that might have some feedback too on. That's a really powerful comment. Thank you for that.
Actually, that's the primary feedback. Thank you, Chris, for the comment. It's a really good comment. We do have after school programming, before school programming in many schools, but not all schools. It's not accessible to all students. And we do rely on community partners for a lot of that work. Boys and Girls Club is a great partner. Sierra Nevada Journeys is a great partner. Many other great partners I'm not going to mention right now. So I appreciate that feedback, and you're right. We see engaging students as a primary goal, not only for academic learning, but for social learning. And engagement has a lot of kind of tentacles, including just a connection to the broader school community, and through after school programming, athletics, that's a way to build that. So again, I appreciate your comment and thank you for it.
I think that was a powerful way for us to wrap up today, Chris. And I see a question in the chat too. Is there, are there other resources other than Parent University that parents who are interested and willing to step into helping their students and their children? And I'm looking for someone from the school district maybe to, are there other places that we might point folks to gain some more insight? Here we go.
Now, this is Megan from Communications stepping in. I think that's a great point, and we have we send out our parent newsletter every 2 weeks, and it often includes some of those resources for parents, but that's good for us to know to continue to share those resources on our website and through that parent newsletter. So we'll work on compiling some so that we can make sure that that's more visible, and that's really good feedback. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Megan. Are there any other questions as we close today? Okay, well, seeing none, again, thank you to our experts and our presenters who gave their time today and their expertise. And I think in some cases, maybe shared some stuff that was new and shared some direction for some of us to move into. And so I'm so grateful for that. And I want to thank all of you for joining and being a part of our forum today. It's really important to us as a commission, and we want to invite you as a commission to provide us with any comments, to come to any of our meetings. We very much are responsive and are very interested in your feedback. So thank you again for participating today, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you tonight.